The FBI is warning cell phone users to avoid using free public charging stations because hackers have figured out how to use USB ports to transmit malware and monitoring software onto your cell phones, tablets, or laptops. We are advised to avoid charging stations in airports, hotels, or shopping centers. And I just say anywhere else that might have a public free charging station. Avoid them altogether. Better safe than sorry. Now, to avoid getting hacked, carry your own charging only USB cable and charge at an AC power outlet, or carry a portable charger or external battery. You want to prevent data from sending or receiving while your devices are being charged. That's the whole concept behind having your own USB cable. Now, remember, keep your devices secure by avoiding public free charging stations. A Different 50 podcast is the voice from the perspective of the 50 plus Black Generation X woman. The two hosts are Jersey girls, college friends, Hampton University alumni, the real HU, and fabulous 50 plus professional women. They talk about real world issues affecting the African American population while also sharing fun, laughter, and occasionally a few cocktails. Sound like my type of ladies, cocktails. So join me as I welcome the hosts of A Different 50 podcast, Donna Baxter and Leslie Faison. Thank you, ladies, for joining me.
Hi.
Hello.
Thank you
for having us.
So tell me, how did A Different 50 plus podcast get started and why?
I'll take that. I had the idea of starting a podcast shortly after my mom passed away. I had been, my mom had taken very ill, and it was a whole thing my sister and I went through and taking care of her. And after it was all over and you kind of take a deep breath and like, oh, how did we even get through that? I said, I cannot be the only person going through this, because you feel like you're the only one going through it at the time, which is of course not the case. People are there to help you, but nobody knows what it's like unless you're going through it. And I listened to a lot of podcasts during my mother's illness, because on long drives to whatever facility she happened to be in, I needed something to take my mind kind of off. And I discovered podcasts, and they were just so interesting. And I was like, maybe I could do one, around what it's like to be 50 and all of these changes that are going on and things of that nature. So that's where the idea came out of.
Okay. And Donna?
Well, I was living out of state for a very long time, and not long after I came back, I actually ran into Leslie at a party in New York. And so from that point, we kind of started to catch up. And one day she called me and she was like, I want to talk to you about something. I'm like, okay. And she was like, I'm thinking about doing a podcast, and you're the only person that comes to mind to do it with. And I was like, podcast? Like, what's the podcast? I was not into those at all. And so we just started talking and collaborating. And, I moved back to Jersey because my parents were older and my mother was starting to be sick. So we just kind of meshed, our lives and what was going on. And she was like, do you want to do it with me? And I was like, sure, no problem. Okay, let's do it. Didn't know what I was getting into. But, and it's like therapeutic for me now, so I love doing it because we get to just talk about real stuff that affects us at our age. We had just turned 50 when we started it. And it was just like everything just kind of started to flow. And a lot of times we do have a lot of fun and talk about a lot of trash, but it's just been a great experience.
It's interesting that your mom, aging, you becoming the caregiver, that sparked your show, because that's a huge transition for midlifers, period. And nobody trains us on what to do when we become the caregiver.
No, they don't.
They don't. You're never prepared for it. And that old saying, once an adult, twice a child, is true.
Very.
And it's a hard transition to make when you've always looked to your parents to be the ones who are the leaders, who are telling you what to do, this, that, and the other. And it's a very hard transition that you have to make to you now become the one who's in charge, for all intents and purposes. And it's difficult and it's emotional and it's challenging. And it's not only that you have to get your parents used to that and they're fighting you or they're not fighting you or they're not able to, but it's that you have to wrap your head around, not only do you have to take care of your own business, but you have to take care of their business as well.
Yeah, I completely understand. I took care of my dad for the last 2 years. He left me in September, but it's a blessing to be able to do that, but it is very difficult and people don't realize it until you're deep into it. Now, some of your shows, there's one, Menopause Strikes Again. And what would you do differently? Those like two of the topics of your shows that I had a chance to listen to. I like that one, you mix that, I guess you could say, a little bit of humor, because there was one of you said regarding gaining weight, like, how did this happen? And the beach is gonna have to just, the beach is gonna get what it gets. And I kind
The
of
beach is going to
visualize,
get what we got to
yeah,
give it.
visualize like, oh, that's true. So how do you come up with your topics? And how do you stay, I guess you could say, just truly being yourself and sharing your realness?
Donna, you want to take that one?
Yes, sure. Our topics are really basically what's either going on in the world or going on in our real lives. And sometimes we'll sit down to record, and at that moment, something will happen or we'll say something. And that's what the show is going to be about. And we just really have conversations. We just tell what is going on with us. And our early shows, I had just really gotten into menopause. It was hearing fans in the background while I'm trying to cool down, and Leslie looking at me like I'm crazy and I'm hot. Oh God, I'm cold and I can't take it. It was just what was really happening. And so as we have evolved, now I'm kind of in like where I'm kind of managing, and now Leslie is the one. Our last show, she just broke out in a sweat. And that's just the stuff we talk about. And then we research, like, what should you take? What shouldn't you take? What works for you? What doesn't work for you? The lies people tell you, just all kind of stuff that's going on.
Wow. Actually, have you guys tried acupuncture?
No, but I'm willing to try it.
No.
I would suggest trying it. I did acupuncture. I was engaged at that time, but I did it to prolong my egg life, length or whatever you would call it. I don't know, be able to have a baby. Fortunately, I didn't marry that guy, but it turned out that when I went through menopause soon after I started it, so I probably wouldn't have been able to get pregnant anyway. But because I'd been doing acupuncture, my menopause was like nothing.
That's awesome.
Wow.
Good to hear. And I have to be honest with you. We have one show where we talk about, there's a product out on the market. I'm not going to say it because they're not paying either one of us to say it. So, but it actually did work for me. And the funny thing is that it popped up on an Instagram ad, because your phones are listening, and it popped up, and I happened to see a woman on there that Donna and I went to college with, who is a very dear friend of mine. And I called her up and I said, am I really seeing you in this ad on Instagram for menopause pills? And she said, oh yeah, that's me. I did a testimonial.
Wow.
So just to, it's funny things like that, and talking with our friends, and that kind of how our topics come about. And then we have friends who are doing some really dynamic things. We have a few guests that are coming up in the future that are doing some dynamic things that are more serious that we talk about. We had a one show with one of our classmates in like our second or third season that was just phenomenal about
Mhm.
the transition she went through when she lost her husband and raising her kids and stuff like that. And it was just it was an amazing show.
Mm.
So we also have friends that like to come on and share with us. And I, we pick people that I think they're doing something really cool and want
Right.
to talk about it. And they are 50 or over. Because another thing that we want to talk about and kind of explore is that life isn't over. You're going to go through transitions. Some of them are going to work. Some of them aren't going to work. I'm going through some
Absolutely.
transition and stuff now, as anybody who's kind of been listening for a while will know. And, sometimes it's good and sometimes it's not.
Yeah. So your girlfriend's having a brunch chit chat pretty much, but you have a wider audience talking about everyday issues.
Yes.
Like
Exactly.
literally, I met
Exactly.
with a girlfriend of mine for brunch recently, and we started talking about retirement because it was right around the corner. And she was like, "Girl, I don't know what I do. I think me and two of my other friends, I'm not going to name their names. She's like, I think we're just going to be the Golden Girls, et cetera, et cetera." And then I mentioned, I was like, "Have you thought about a 55 plus community?" So it wound up opening. Then all six of us wound up texting ideas that they hadn't even considered as potential retirement environments that are affordable. So
We
that,
have a show on retirement too. We talk about
yeah.
that too because we're there now. When you're 20 and 30 and you're hanging out and you're having a great time, but now we're 50. Now we're
Mhm.
55. Now
Mhm.
we're 56. And so we're there and we talk about those things.
Yes. And do you also speak about, because another issue that I'm finding with girlfriends is they have, I mean, friends in general, is they have adult children who don't want to work.
Leslie, I'll let you take that.
I have a beautiful adult godchild who I helped raise and put through college, and that's mine. So I don't have any biological children, but it's not that she doesn't want to work; it's that they have a different concept of what adulting is. I can't get down with it. I try my best to be supportive.
Yeah.
I find myself failing sometimes.
Yeah. No, it's sad because I had a conversation with someone just the other day. She's in her 40s. She was like, she's always wanted kids, but it's probably too late. And I found myself honestly saying to her, because I don't have kids either, and I thought I would have at least three by now. But I found myself saying to her, because of different friends and their experiences or whatever, it's like, yes, parenthood is a blessing, but I did say you don't know what you might have been protected from, because you don't know what you're going to get. You hope your kids, as smart as you are, everything you give them, you hope they'll wind up being productive kids, but they have their own mind.
They have their own minds and they're built differently now. They're not like we think of kids, we think of our own childhood and just how we were and how we were in college and stuff. These kids are built different. There's something different in the water. I
Mhm.
don't know.
Very.
Water in the water. I don't know.
I think that
Their
what,
sense of their sense of entitlement too.
yeah.
And you don't want to blame them. I mean, it's the world they live in. So, and everything has to happen right now. And if it doesn't happen right now, and you hurt my feelings, you can't. It's a different generation of kids.
Let's hope that something changes. Now, another topic I saw on your one of your, it was what I would do differently if, and I found myself trying to guess what I would do that's different. Was that an organic conversation that you guys had? What you would go back and change, I think was the topic.
What would you go? Yeah, it was probably came from me because I'm always thinking about, you know what, I should have did that differently. I will do that.
Right.
That probably came from me. What would you do differently? Because I think in me personally, in my life, people always say, oh, you shouldn't have any regrets or this, that, and the other. But I do like to go back and look and say, if I had done this differently, this may have happened. Would I be happier? Would I be whatever? I don't know. But there are a few things that I could go back and say, yeah, I do wish I had done that differently, or I wish I had made a different decision, or I wish I had gone in a different direction. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But you have that knowledge now. How are you going to move going forward? You still
Yeah.
have a lot of life to live. You know, as much as a lot of us may think like, oh, just because you can't drop it in the club like you used to, although I will give it a good run every now and then.
Absolutely.
I will give it a good run every now and then. Doesn't mean that we still don't have a lot of life ahead of us and a lot of things that we can still do and try to accomplish.
Yeah, yeah. So, what is your favorite podcast topic so far?
That's a great
Good
question.
question.
I like the ones when we have guests on. I really do
Yeah.
those where we can kind of delve into what folks are doing and working on or experiences that they've had in their lives. I have to say, I probably like the ones when we have guests on. Sometimes I think, sometimes when it's just Donna and I feel like it's just the two of, I forget we're on, I forget we're on. And sometimes like we go off on tangents and I'm like, we need to bring this back in because
Right.
You could wind up revealing some extra stuff that way, though.
you know,
Sometimes.
that happens sometimes.
Sometimes. I think my favorite one of my favorites, one that Leslie alluded to, with where our classmate came on and shared her experience. It was just very deep and, honest. But we also had another classmate on who is an emergency room doctor. And so for him to come on, and we were talking about, okay, at this age, people, we need to be making sure that these are the kind of tests that we're having and, numbers that we need to pay attention to, because like I'm really, Leslie and I both are really into, wellness as a whole, like wellness and being healthy and doing those things. So I really enjoyed that because I think in life we start to take those things for granted. You just keep going on. And Leslie and I always talk about, we have so many Black men just dropping dead from heart attacks and, so many people not making it to age 50. So I think that was a really good one for me because we need to pay attention to those things.
Do you know the title of that? I need to go back and listen to that one.
We'll go back and we will send that to you.
Okay, yeah.
Yes.
It was
Yeah.
last year, possibly?
Or the year before.
I think 2 years. Yeah,
Okay.
probably 2 years. Yeah.
Okay,
But
yeah.
it was good.
Yeah.
Wow, that's great. Now, where do you see your show going from here? This is what, your third season?
6.
Oh my God, how did I miss that? Wow.
We
And how
are
many episodes are you doing a year on average?
It varies. It varies. I wish I could say we had more structure than we do.
Exactly.
But what it is that we normally tape from like late January, February through June. We'll take the summer off and then we'll come back September through November and take off the holidays.
Okay, that way you don't burn out.
Right. We don't burn out and we give ourselves space and time. We're supposed to be on every no more than bi-weekly between each episode. Sometimes we have episodes each week. Sometimes there may be 3 weeks between an episode. It all depends on how our schedules shake out. But we really do try to get at least 2 episodes a month up. We that's the goal. Where do we see it going? I would love to see us try to expand our audience, and that will take some more effort on our part to really double down and really, take a deep dive into, what do we need to do next to kind of level this up to the next, to the next level and get more audience and get more downloads and get more people, more of our audience interacting with us. We want to know what they want to talk about. And sometimes that's hard to get that interaction from your audience. So that's probably in the near term, something that I would like to see us, develop and get more into.
I'm just happy about the fact that we have kept going because we both have a lot of stuff going on, different stuff going on. Leslie's in a transition. But we just keep going because at one time we were like, should we stop this? And I was like, absolutely not. We're going to keep going because we are talking real life at this age. So that's what the podcast is truly all about. We're going to keep going. We're going to slip sometime, but we're going to come back and we're going to just keep going.
And I would encourage you to keep going because our audience, as you know, we're too busy to leave a lot of comments on, what I mean? We don't have that kind of time really. Or we may want to leave a comment or send an email and it just gets lost in the fray of a busy schedule. So definitely keep going. So Leslie, what do you do for a living? Donna, can you share what do you do for a living? I know you're both professional women.
Sure. I spent over 20 years working on Wall Street. And I just made a really hard stop left transition into recruiting. I'm still deciding whether this is it. It's an interesting time in my life. So I decided to make this career transition. I'm not sure that this is it, that this is the final destination, but I knew I needed to make a change from what I was doing previously, for all those years on Wall Street. So that's where I am right now.
Sounds like you're getting rid of some stress.
You know what? I thought I was, but turns out not so much. But as I said, this is a learning process, and it just goes to show, you never know what the day will bring, and you never know what kind of changes may come. You just got to be ready and go with, and just go with it.
Agreed.
I've always worked in financial services. I've worked for private companies. I've worked for government. Currently, I'm working for state government right now, still in the financial area. But I don't know where I want to go. Me and Leslie talk about this all the time. Like, I think I want to go back to school. I think I want to transition to something else. So, it's possible. And we're just exploring.
But I've encouraged her to go back to school. I don't care how old you are. If you feel that urge to go back, I think you should do it.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm sort of the same way. I'm trying to decide whether to go, but my problem is, do I want to deal with having to do the work a specific way like that? Those guidelines, am I ready to deal with that again?
I am. Yeah.
Right.
I get it. But I think the difference is being older and wiser. You can figure out a way to make it work for you.
Yeah. And I love that you're genuine in that you're searching for your next, because I think that most of us at this age are in transition searching for our next. So for my ladies out here who are watching, who would love to watch a Different 50 podcast, how can they find you?
Where are we, Donna? We are on Apple, Spotify, Google, SoundCloud. Am I missing anything?
That's it for now.
I think that's it for now. You can find us, and we are a Different 50 podcast. We're on Instagram at a Different 50 on Instagram. We have a Facebook page.
Okay.
Yeah, and you can find us on Twitter. We don't do much on Twitter. Twitter's crazy. I can't with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's another show.
That's another show.
Perfect. Thank you so much, ladies, for joining us. And apologies, I think I kept saying a Different 50 Plus podcast.
That's okay.
It's a different 50 plus, but it is Different 50.
Actually, now we are a Different 50 Plus.
Maybe I was thinking of my age. Yes. Thank you so much for joining us.
We're right there with you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.